Right, so for my first custom, I did Mr. Hippo. Mr. Hippo. I used Monty head, and then I sculpted it with clay. Sculpted it. And then for the body, I used Orville's arms and like thigh pieces and torso. And then for the feet, I used Pig Patch's feet. And then I did sand, and then I painted the whole thing and glossed it. Next up, we got Withered Freddy, and I just used tie-dye Freddy and sculpted his feet. Added clay to make his torso bigger. Added like clay wires around his body, and cut his head off, and add a little endo jaw inside, and cut his ears off, and glued them higher up, and then added withering around his body, and added 2 buttons. Then I sanded it and painted it. Withered Bonnie, and I used the tie-dye body for him, and I cut his face off, and made a endo head out of clay, and put some wires out of clay, and made a extra row of teeth out of clay, and did a little endo jaw out of clay. Then I added little wires around like his mask portion, and then I used wires for that, like wire hand, added buttons out of clay, added clay wires, made my own like custom endo hand, and endo foot, and wires around and withered around him. Withered Chica, and this one, in my opinion, I think looks the best. I used tie-dye Chica, and I split her head open with a knife, and added clay in there to make like her jaw rise, and added like clay wires along it, and sculpted a new beak out of clay, and added a little endo jaw along with the teeth on it. And then I added toenails to her feet, and wires to her hands. I just removed the hands and added clay. Then I sanded it and painted over it. The bib was very difficult. And then I added black brush around the final one of the Withereds is Withered Foxy. He was probably the most difficult. His torso being split. So I just used tie-dye Foxy for the figure base, and I cut his ear off and a piece of his chunk of his head, and added clay wires, and sculpted a custom endo hand, and a new hook, longer hook. Then I had to really heat up his torso, and so I'm able to cut it in half, like burn it through a little bit, add a little piece of clay in there so it looks like it's open, and stands up. And then I sculpted his feet really new. Gave me 3 toes, little rings around his feet, endo feet. Then I sanded it and just painted it, and added withering around it. Moving on to toys, we got Toy Freddy, and I used the live wire Freddy, and kind of to sand off the little bumps and ridges on it. His stomach torso very good. I didn't really get very close to the eyes, so still little bumps and ridges in those spots. But yeah, this is Toy Freddy basically. Just sanded it, and I painted it, and then there's just Toy Freddy. A Toy Bonnie. clips on along her arms and legs, and sanded it and painted it. It was very hard to do. And then I outlined her toes with very sketchy shape. So we got Phantom Freddy, and for them I used tie-dye Freddy again, and made his torso bigger with clay. Added a button, and cut his ear off and added clay wires, and sanded it down, painted it, and yeah, he has withering tech. Shadow Freddy. For Shadow Freddy, I added clay to his torso to make it bigger, and I added buttons to his torso, like actual Shadow Freddy, and cut his ear off, added wires and withering to the little spot his ear was. I added wires around his body, around his eye, around his leg, and added withering around it, and sanded everything and painted it. Then we got a more unique one. It's animatronic from the FNAF movie, Sparky the dog. For Sparky the dog, I used tie-dye Bonnie, and I cut his ears off and sculpted new ears out of clay. And I also sculpted his little collar thing around his neck, and sanded it down and painted it. And it was a nice gloss finish. We got Fredbear, at least like Golden Fredbear, classic Fredbear. And for him, I used tie-dye Freddy, and I sanded it down and just painted it. Pretty simple and custom. Got Glamrock Bonnie, and for Glamrock Bonnie, I used Monty's body. I sanded down the belt off, and I cut off his tail, and then I used tie-dye Bonnie's head and sculpted the head, and sculpted new ears, and sculpted the headband, most of the head, the eyes, the teeth, the mouth, and cut his toes off. Added a clay collar around his neck, and sanded it, painted it, and gave it a nice gloss. We got my custom Roxy, my version of Roxy. What I did is I cut her hair a little bit, added clay, added a bigger green streak in her, give her a darker coating of gray for that lightish purple, and I used some better eyelashes there, fixed her lips, added more detail onto her outfit. Painted her nails green, added spikes along her waist and on her arms, added bigger broader shoulder pads, more detail to her hair and tail, and painted little lines out of the mechanical parts, and filled in the feet. Got Puppet, which is the most hardest one to make, I made. It's not very greatest Puppet, which is easier, but what I did was I took apart tie-dye Freddy, and I took the joints apart, and I wired them, little holes in the pieces, and wired them together along the body, and then I used clay to mold around the little connecting pieces, joints,